Took out the bully. Lost my job in return. I hadn't heard the name Kyle Stanton in over 10 years, but the second I walked into the conference room and saw him standing there in that smug little fitted suit, arms crossed like he owned the place, it hit me like a punch to the gut. He hadn't changed much. Same sharp jawline, same cocky smirk. Still had that little scar near his left eyebrow, something he got back in senior year when he sucker punched a guy for looking at his girlfriend too long. I never forgot that scar. I used to stare at it while he pinned me against lockers or spat slurs at me during gym, and now he was my new manager. "So you're the new marketing analyst?" Kyle said, voice drenched in fake politeness. "I gotta say I didn't expect you." I froze for half a second too long before managing to smile. "Neither did I." He chuckled. "Small world, huh?" "Yeah, small enough for nightmares to come back to life." I got the job through a recruiter. The companion aggressive mid-sized startup in Austin was looking to expand their digital team. I'd been freelancing since my last layoff, living off unstable income and ramen packets, so when they offered me a full-time salary with benefits, I jumped at it without thinking twice. I didn't know Kyle worked here. I never looked that deep into the team page. I just needed stability. "Let's catch up sometime," he said that day, clapping me on the back like we were frat brothers. A lot's changed since high school. He had no idea. I wasn't the weak, quiet kid anymore. I wasn't afraid of confrontation, and I definitely wasn't afraid of him. But I smiled and nodded, looking forward to it. The first few weeks were tense. Kyle didn't come at me directly, not at first. He played it cool, assigning me projects, giving lukewarm feedback, throwing in the occasional buddy or champ like some kind of office jock. But it didn't take long before the old patterns started to creep in. He forgot to CC me on important emails. He shot down every idea I pitched in meetings with a smug little, "Maybe next time." He accidentally scheduled me for overlapping tasks, then criticized me for missing deadlines. And the worst part, no one else saw it. To the rest of the team, Kyle was charming, confident, a great guy to grab beers with. But I saw through the act. I'd seen it before, back when he ran the halls like a king and made my high school life a living hell. One Thursday afternoon, things finally boiled over. We were in a team sync. I presented a campaign plan I'd worked on for 2 weeks' data, projections, mock-ups, everything. Kyle interrupted 5 minutes in. "This is fine," he said, smirking, "but it kind of feels like something a sophomore marketing major would turn in, you know?" The room went quiet. I stared at him. "Excuse me?" "Just saying." He shrugged. "It's kind of basic. I mean, do we really want this representing our brand?" I swallowed my pride. "I can revise it if you'd like." "Oh, don't worry about it. I'll assign it to Jenna. She's got a better feel for this sort of thing." That was the moment I decided. I wasn't going to take it anymore. Not from him. Not here. If Kyle wanted a war, I'd give him one. And this time I wouldn't lose. I didn't sleep that night. I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling fan spinning like a slow, steady clock, replaying Kyle's smirk in my mind like a gif I couldn't shut off. He'd humiliated me in front of everyone. Again, just like high school. The only difference now was that we weren't 16. We were adults. I had resources, a brain, and this time, I had leverage if I could find it. The next morning, I walked into the office with a plan forming. I wasn't going to confront him. Not yet. That's what he'd expect. Instead, I was going to dismantle him piece by piece. But first, I needed information. I started simple. Over lunch, I chatted more with people around the office. Jenna, the girl who took over my project, Rich from accounting, Dana from HR. I kept things casual, but I asked questions about Kyle. Seems like a cool guy, I'd say, waiting for their reactions. Some smiled, some nodded politely. But then there was Tyler, a quiet developer who always sat near the window, headphones on, eyes avoiding contact. He gave a dry laugh when I mentioned Kyle. "You actually like him?" I shrugged. "Not sure yet." Tyler looked around, then leaned in. "He's a snake, but he knows how to play nice with the right people." "Something happen?" He hesitated, then said, "Let's just say he's good at making messes other people have to clean up." That was my first crack. I kept watching Kyle over the next week. He was sloppy. He flirted with Jenna in meetings, even though company policy clearly banned it. He left confidential printouts on the kitchen table. He used company cards for personal Starbucks runs and not subtle ones either. Venti frappuccinos, bakery items, 5 times a day. And then there were the weird meetings with the CFO cop. Long, tense ones where he came out pale and quiet for a full 5 minutes before switching back to loud Kyle mode. I started writing everything down. Dates, times, what he said, who was there. I backed up emails, made screenshots, saved voice memos of anything remotely shady. I was building a file, not for HR, for leverage. One day, while helping a new intern set up her company profile, I had access to our shared network. She had Kyle's folder open by accident. "Oops," she said. "Wrong one?" I smiled. "No worries." But before she clicked away, I saw something strange, an invoice with Kyle's name on it, listed under external contractors. Weird, because Kyle wasn't supposed to be hiring freelancers. That had to go through procurement. I made a mental note of the invoice number. That night, I stayed late. When everyone else cleared out, I checked the shared server again. I found the same invoice actually, 5 of them listing payments to a design contractor named Drew Miller. I did a quick search, no portfolio, no LinkedIn, no website. But there was a Drew Miller with the same bank routing number tied to a Venmo account linked to Kyle's younger brother. Bingo. The next day, I printed the invoices and tucked them into a plain folder. Now I had proof that Kyle was funneling company money to family, masking it as design work which, based on our records, never existed. That was fraud, plain and simple. But I wasn't going to report it yet. No, that would be too easy. Kyle had taken my pride, my confidence, my career trajectory twice. I wasn't going to let him walk away with a slap on the wrist. I wanted to watch him unravel. I wanted him to self-destruct. That Friday, we had a company happy hour at a rooftop bar. Kyle was 3 drinks in and even more smug than usual. He sidled up to me near the bar. "Hey, champ, still stewing about Monday's meeting?" I smiled calmly. "Not at all. You were right. The campaign was weak." He blinked, a little surprised. "You've grown up," he said like he was giving me a medal. "Yeah," I replied, "and I've learned something." "What's that?" I leaned in. The more someone tries to look like they're on top of the world, the more likely they've got something to hide. His eyes flickered. I walked away without another word. The Monday after the happy hour, Kyle didn't look so smug anymore. I'd planted the seed of doubt in his head, and it was growing. He kept glancing at me during meetings, like he couldn't tell if I was bluffing or not. Perfect. I wasn't going to rush this. I wanted him rattled, unbalanced, slipping in front of people who mattered. So I made my next move. Subtle sabotage. I started small. In our shared Google Drive, I made a few accidental edits to his presentation. Slides just enough to throw him off during his next pitch. In one meeting with a senior client, Kyle was halfway through his deck when he realized one of the graphs had been replaced with data from 6 months ago. He stumbled, tried to improvise, then blamed the intern for the mistake. Classic. I watched from across the table, sipping coffee, looking innocent. A few days later, I sent an anonymous tip to our finance department about suspicious billing tied to the external contractor codes. I didn't mention Kyle's name, I just gave them a trail to start looking at. By the time they started asking quiet questions in the background, Kyle was already losing his cool. He started micromanaging people, barking at Jenna, accusing coworkers of gossiping. But the best part? Nobody liked him enough to defend him. I knew I had to keep the pressure steady, so I sent an email from a burner account to Kyle. Subject: nice invoices. Want to chat about Drew Miller? Body: you owe me one. Keep pushing, and I'll push back harder. Let's not play games you can't win. No name, no threats, just enough to light a fire under him. And light it did. The next day, he looked pale as hell. He skipped the morning stand-up, locked himself in a meeting room for 2 hours. When he came out, he looked like a guy who'd just lost a bet with the devil. Now it was time for the master stroke. Every company has a whisper network, and I knew how to tap into ours. Over the next week, I started a few careful conversations, saying nothing direct. "Oh, did you hear about that weird thing in finance? Someone flagged a contract." I fingers quietly reviewing a manager. Little things, gossip fuel. And because Kyle had made enemies everywhere, people were ready to believe it was him. They didn't need much convincing. Soon, Jenna wasn't talking to him. Tyler avoided eye contact. Even the boss started calling on me more during team updates. I could feel it. The tide was turning. That Friday, I stayed late again. Kyle did too. When I passed his office, he was hunched over his desk, massaging his temples, the blinds closed. I paused in the doorway. "You good?" I asked, voice casual. He didn't look up, just tired. I stepped inside. "Need help with something?" Silence. Then he said very quietly, "You did something, didn't you?" I tilted my head. "What do you mean?" He looked up. His eyes were bloodshot. "I know you hate me. I know I took the promotion. But this is too much." I just stared at him, calm, controlled. "You've made a lot of enemies, Kyle," I said. "You sure it's me you should be worried about?" He looked at me like he wanted to punch me, but he didn't. He just nodded slowly. "You win," he whispered. "But don't think I won't come back from this." I smiled. "I'm counting on it." By the following week, Kyle had vanished from the office. Not like fired, vanished, just remote work. Burnout, they said. Taking time off to reset. It looked like a win, but I knew better. Guys like Kyle don't retreat unless they're planning something. He wasn't gone. He was preparing, and sure enough, it didn't take long for his next move to hit. It started with an HR email. Subject: Office Conduct Review. I read it 3 times. They wanted to chat about a few concerns that had come up regarding my recent interactions with team members. No details, just enough to make my stomach sink. I'd played this game too well. Now Kyle was flipping the board. I went into the HR meeting like I had nothing to hide. There were 2 people in the room. One was our HR manager, Liza, a woman with a reputation for always smiling, even while she was ruining careers. The other was some quiet guy from legal. That wasn't normal. They slid a printed email across the table. It was from an anonymous team member, claiming I'd been creating a hostile environment, manipulating documents, and spreading targeted rumors. The phrases were clinical, HR speak, but I knew exactly where it came from. Kyle had built a fake case, or worse, collected every little accident I'd orchestrated and repackaged it into a neat accusation. I didn't flinch, just leaned forward and said calmly, "I'd like to see evidence of anything other than speculation." Lisa kept smiling. "This isn't disciplinary, just exploratory." But I knew the drill. This was a warning shot. And worse, it meant Kyle still had power, even from his little home office war bunker. That night, I sat in my apartment, staring at my laptop screen, and thought, I went too far. Not morally. I'd made peace with that a long time ago, but tactically underestimated how deep Kyle could dig when cornered. I needed an insurance policy, so I called in a favor. My old roommate, Dylan, worked in it for a different company, but he'd always had a thing for breaking into places digitally. Not hacking, exactly, just bending the rules. I told him what I needed. Nothing criminal, I said. Just access, something to prove what Kyle's really been up to. He was quiet for a second. Then, "I'll need a few days, and you'll owe me." While Dylan worked his magic, I played it cool at the office. Har wasn't pushing hard yet, but people had started to talk. I'd gone from the quiet guy in the corner to that guy one being reviewed. Funny how fast people flipped. Even Jenna looked unsure when we passed each other in the hall. She didn't smile anymore. Just a tight nod. The higher I climbed, the lonelier it got. And Kyle hadn't even come back yet. 3 days later, Dylan sent me a message. "Dylan, got something. You might want to sit down." I clicked to the file he sent. My heart stopped. It was a recorded Zoom call. Kyle, talking to someone from a rival firm. Not just talking, negotiating. He was leaking client strategies, offering insights, positioning himself for a lateral move once he'd blown things up internally. And worse, he named names. Threw colleagues under the bus. Played victim. I watched the whole video twice. It was perfect. It was a nuke. But I couldn't just forward it. That'd get me fired too. Dylan's method wasn't exactly HR approved. So I did what Kyle would have done. I weaponized the Whisper network. I sent the file to one person, Jenna. No note, no comment. Just, "You need to see this." I knew she'd do the rest. And she did. By Monday, the place was in chaos. The video had spread like wildfire. Nobody knew who leaked it, but everyone knew what it meant. Kyle had been playing both sides. Betraying the team, undermining the company, and now he was radioactive. That afternoon, we got the email. Subject: staff announcement. Kyle was no longer with the company. No farewell lunch, no LinkedIn post, just gone. But the victory didn't feel sweet. That night, I sat alone at my desk, staring at the Slack thread where Kyle used to post his smug little status updates. Now it was silent. Jenna passed by. Paused. She said nothing, but after a second, she reached into her pocket and tossed something on my desk. It was Kyle's office keycard. She gave me a long look and walked away. A week after Kyle's departure, the office had changed. It was quieter, calmer. The team moved like a group just waking up from a bad dream. There were no petty battles over project leads, no veiled insults during meetings. For the first time in months, things just worked. On paper, it looked like I'd won. I got Kyle out. I saved the team from sabotage. Hell, I even got a quiet nod of respect from upper management during our last quarterly review. But victories like this, they don't come clean. A few days later, I got a calendar invite. One-on-one with Lisa HR follow-up. This wasn't over. I walked in with a neutral face. No smugness. Just calm. Lisa didn't smile this time. She looked tired. "Thank you for coming," she said, motioning to the chair. "We just wanted to close the loop." I sat. Waited. There's no disciplinary action. We didn't find anything that warrants further review. I exhaled slowly. "But," she added, folding her hands, "this isn't a clean slate either." She looked me in the eye. "Your name's been associated with a lot of drama in the past few months, and while we can't prove anything, we do notice patterns." I didn't say anything. She continued, "We're promoting Jenna." My eyes twitched just slightly. "To Kyle's old position," she clarified. "She's earned it. And she's clean." There it was. My warning. I could keep playing my game, but I wouldn't get the title. Not now. Maybe not ever. They wanted someone safe. Someone they didn't have to watch. I left the meeting feeling empty. I'd removed Kyle, protected my team, outsmarted someone objectively worse. But I'd done it my way. And the company didn't forget that. The thing no one tells you about playing chess at work is, even when you win, they still remember you moved the pieces. That night, I sat on my couch, drink in hand, scrolling through LinkedIn. Kyle hadn't updated his profile. No smug post. No new role. It was like he disappeared, but I knew better. People like him always land somewhere. Sometimes quietly, sometimes with a bang. And me? I still had a job. I still had control over my projects. I even got more budget this quarter. But I also had Jenna above me now. And I saw the way she looked at me sometimes. Not grateful. Not hostile either. Just wary. Like she knew I'd crossed a line. Like she knew I might do it again. A week later, Dylan texted me. "Dylan, dude, check out this job posting. They're literally using Kyle's project framework." He sent me a link to some fintech startups open role. Under responsibilities, it listed strategic restructuring of internal workflows using Agile 2 practices. The same crap Kyle used to pitch. He was back somewhere, and probably already scheming, but that wasn't my problem anymore. I closed the tab. On Monday morning, I walked into the office, grabbed my coffee, and slid into my chair. Same desk, same view, same job document, different rules. The game hadn't ended. It had just changed. And this time, I wasn't going to underestimate the cost of winning. If you like this video, please subscribe for more.